You really think you should be serving customers with a face like that? The patron sneered as he looked at the scars on the coffee server's neck. She only smiled softly and replied, I've served people like you before, but in much harsher conditions the next morning. The entire diner fell silent as a group of Marines lined up outside, each carrying a small object wrapped in cloth. Who were they looking for, and why was the woman mocked yesterday now being greeted with military honors? Today, Maria Torres. 32 worked the morning shift at a small roadside diner near the old Marine Corps base in North Carolina. She arrived each day at 5 a.m., tying her faded apron with practice movements. Her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail that revealed a face marked by life's harshest realities. The early regulars knew her as dependable coffee. Always hot orders, rarely confused, and a quiet efficiency that made her nearly invisible, except for one unmistakable feature, the network of scars that traced from her right temple down her neck and disappeared beneath her collar, reappeared along her right arm. Most customers pretended not to notice the truckers who stopped for breakfast before long hauls, the night shift workers ending their day, the elderly couples who came for the $2 coffee refills and stayed for hours. They glance once, then deliberately focus on their plates or newspapers. Some whispered theories when they thought she couldn't hear. Must have been a car wreck, probably a house fire, drug addict. I bet those people do crazy things. Maria never corrected them. She just poured coffee, delivered plates, and collected tips with quiet dignity. That Tuesday morning began like any other. The early rush had just started to thin when 3 middle-aged men in business attire entered, white shirts, loosened ties, expensive watches, corporate types passing through, stopping for breakfast before some meeting in the city. They seated themselves at the corner booth, voices carrying louder than necessary as they discussed quarterly reports and golf handicaps. When Maria approached with menus, the largest man looked up, his expression shifting from casual disinterest to undisguised disgust. You really think you should be serving customers with a face like that? He asked, loud enough for neighboring tables to hear. Wouldn't dishwashing in the back be more appropriate? The diner fell silent. An elderly man at the counter set down his spoon and turned away. The cook paused, spatula mid-flip. Maria didn't flinch. She placed the menus on the table and poured coffee with steady hands. I've served people like you before, but in much harsher conditions, she said softly, her voice carrying in the silence. The man's eyebrows shot up. He glanced at his companions, a smirk forming. Don't tell me you were military. He scoffed with that face. You wouldn't make it past the parking lot at recruitment. They laughed, a sound that seemed to bounce harshly off the worn linoleum floor. No one in the diner joined them. A truck driver stood abruptly and walked out, leaving cash beside his half-finished breakfast. Maria continued working, her hands trembling slightly as she refilled coffee cups, but her eyes remained steady, meeting the gaze of everyone she served. Eleanor. The diner's owner approached her near the service station. You okay, honey? She whispered, concerned lining her weathered face. I'm fine, Maria replied, arranging silverware. I've dealt with people like this since Fallujah. This is nothing new. Eleanor squeezed her shoulder gently. You don't have to take their order, I can do it. Maria shook her head. No need. Some people just fear what they don't understand. She picked up her coffee pot and returned to work. Back straight steps measured at the next table. An older veteran in a faded cap watched the exchange. He left a $20 tip on a $5 meal and nodded to Maria on his way out. She nodded back, a silent acknowledgement between those who recognize the invisible weight others carry. If you believe someone who has faced bullets won't fear mockery. Stay with us. The scars that mapped Maria Torres's skin weren't from any accident. She had served as a logistics specialist and field medic with the Marines' Bravo 17 unit in Iraq. Her job had been keeping supplies moving and patching up the wounded until proper medical evacuation could arrive, a role that kept her behind the lines but never truly safe. In 2010, during her second tour, their forward operating base came under heavy mortar attack. Maria had been completing inventory when the first explosions hit. Rather than seeking shelter, she ran toward the supply vehicles where two young Marines were trapped in a burning transport. The explosion that marked her body happened moments after she pulled the second Marine, clear a secondary blast that caught her right side, throwing her against concrete barriers. She didn't remember much after that, just fragment searing pain, the taste of blood and dust. Someone shouting her name, the rhythmic thump of helicopter blades. Maria never spoke about what happened. Her discharge papers and Purple Heart medal stayed in a metal box beneath her bed alongside photographs. She rarely looked at the citations used words like valor and extraordinary courage, but Maria considered it simply doing her job after medical discharge. Civilian life proved unexpectedly difficult. The job interviews would start promisingly until she walked in. She'd watch employers' eyes track her scars, their expressions shifting from interest to discomfort. The rejections always came with the same polite phrases, seeking someone with different qualifications or concerned about customer-facing roles. Maria finally found a place at Eleanor's Diner, a no-frills establishment that cared more about reliability than appearance, no fancy uniform required, just punctuality and hard work. Eleanor, whose son had served in Afghanistan, never once mentioned Maria's scars during the interview. "Can you start tomorrow?" was all she'd asked each time young Marines from the nearby base visited the diner. Maria served them with special attention. Fresh coffee, extra bacon slipped onto plates, the best tables by the windows. She never made it obvious she was watching their unit patches, their haircuts, the way they carried themselves. But she noticed she remembered a week before the incident with the businessman. A group of young Marines had come for breakfast. They wore civilian clothes, but their military bearing was unmistakable. Maria served them efficiently, keeping her eyes lowered as they were leaving. One hung back, placing a folded napkin under his coffee cup. Maria found it while clearing the table, written in neat block letters. "Thank you for saving our captain. I recognized you from the picture he keeps. PFC Reynolds, B-17. Maria hadn't responded. She simply folded the note and tucked it into her pocket, where it remained for days afterward. Then came the morning after she'd been mocked, a morning that began differently than any other. Maria arrived at her usual time, 5:15 a.m., to prep the diner. Before opening, as she unlocked the front door, she noticed movement across the street. People were gathering in the pre-dawn darkness, men and women standing in an orderly line that stretched around the corner as streetlights illuminated their faces. Maria recognized the unmistakable posture of Marines. Though they wore civilian clothes, each person in line carried something small wrapped in cloth at exactly 6 a.m. When Maria flipped the sign to open, the first person entered, a tall man with silver at his temples and the weathered complexion of someone who'd spent years in desert sun coffee black. He said, sitting at the counter, then more quietly, "You don't remember me, do you?" Torres Maria studied him, recognition dawning slowly. "Lieutenant Harlow, Captain." Now he corrected with a small smile, though not for much longer, retiring next month. Maria nodded, pouring his coffee with the same steady hands that had once packed wounds under artillery fire. "Congratulations, sir. I'm not here for congratulation," he said. He placed a small package wrapped in green cloth on the counter. "I'm here to repay a debt. Do you remember the transport fire at FOB Courage?" Maria's hand paused, mid-air coffee pot suspended. "I don't remember much except that you couldn't get out on your own, and I had about 5 seconds to pull harder." Captain Harlow nodded solemnly, "And those 5 seconds changed everything for 12 people behind me. They all came home, graduated, lived on, because one woman carried an entire squad out of that fire." Outside, the line of Marines remained waiting patiently, one by one. They would enter throughout the morning. Eleanor arrived to find her diner already half full, with more waiting outside. "What's happening?" she asked Maria. Maria could only shake her head, emotion tightening her throat as Captain Harlow unwrapped the cloth package to reveal a battered metal insignia, the Bravo 17 unit medallion. "The first of many," he explained. "Everyone who made it home wants to return something to you. We've been looking for years. A private recognized you last week," said his captain. "Kept your picture." The one from the field hospital, where you were still bandaging others, despite your own injuries. Maria blinked rapidly, fighting tears. I was just doing my job. Captain Harlow shook his head. No. Torres, you went far beyond your job, and none of us has forgotten. Have you ever seen someone stay silent, then suddenly become the center of gratitude? Share a moment like that. Word spread quickly. A truck driver who had witnessed the Marines lining up outside the diner captured the moment on his phone and posted it online with the caption, "A veteran disrespected, and this is how those she once saved responded." The post gained traction first locally, then spreading across veteran networks nationwide by noon. The line outside Eleanor's diner still hadn't diminished as each Marine entered, ordered a simple meal, and presented Maria with a token more arrived to take their place. Comments poured in beneath the viral post. I was treated by Specialist Torres during medvac from Fallujah. She didn't just save lives, she gave courage. My brother wouldn't have made it home without B-17's Angel. Thank you for finding her. Local media arrived by mid-afternoon cameras capturing the line that now wrapped around the block. Some waited hours just to shake Maria's hand or give her a small memento unit coins patches. Even letters from families of those she'd helped. Eleanor canceled the afternoon shift change, calling in extra staff to handle the unexpected rush. Maria worked straight through, accepting each token with quiet dignity, trembling only when she recognized a face from her past. I remember you, she said to a young man using a prosthetic leg. You told jokes the entire time I was working on your tourniquet. Had to make you laugh, he replied. Figured if I could make my medic smile while my leg was mostly gone, I'd definitely survive. The man who had mocked Maria the previous day saw the news coverage on his hotel television. He called the diner immediately, asking to speak with her. I want to apologize, he began when Eleanor reluctantly handed Maria the phone. I had no idea. It's fine. Maria interrupted, her voice firm but not unkind. You couldn't have known, but I judged you without. We all make judgments, she said. What matters is what we learn afterward. She hung up, returning to the counter where customers waited. The apology came too late, not because Maria couldn't forgive, but because it wasn't needed anymore. She had never required validation from strangers. As the day progressed, more stories emerged. A retired colonel entered the diner, moving slowly with the aid of a cane. He waited patiently for his turn to speak with Maria. You won't remember me, he began. I was unconscious when you found me. Maria studied his face, searching for recognition. Northern Fallujah. He continued. The command post bombing. They told me later that you crawled through debris with a broken arm to reach me. Administered blood plasma while the building was still collapsing. Maria's expression softened. I remember the building. There were 3 of you trapped in the communication center. Only I made it out, he said quietly. Because of you, I have 3 grandchildren now who wouldn't exist if you hadn't been there that day. He presented her with his colonel's eagle insignia, pressing it into her palm. My daughter's a surgeon. Now she chose medicine because of the story I told her about you throughout the day. These connections multiplied, lives touched directly and indirectly by Maria's actions. Years ago, a ripple effect of survival and gratitude that had been invisible until now. The following morning, Maria arrived to find a steaming cup of coffee already waiting at her station. No note, no explanation. Just coffee prepared exactly how she liked it. The gesture would continue every morning thereafter, though she never discovered who was responsible. 1 week after the viral moment, a local television station requested an interview. Maria declined politely but firmly. I didn't serve for recognition, she told Eleanor, and I don't need cameras to validate what happened. But when Captain Harlow called asking her to attend a small ceremony organized by former Bravo 17 members, Maria couldn't refuse. They had named the event The Scars That Served and planned to present her with a unit commendation that had been approved years ago but never delivered. The ceremony was held at the VFW Hall, 3 blocks from the diner. Maria arrived wearing a simple black dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. Rather than pulled back for the first time in years, she made no attempt to hide her scars. The room fell silent as she entered. 200 people rose to their feet. Marines in dress blues, veterans in civilian attire, family members of those who had served alongside her. Their unified stance was more powerful than any applause when Captain Harlow presented the commendation, reading the citation that detailed her actions during the attack. Maria finally broke. Tears streamed down her face, following the pathways of her scars. "We searched for you for 7 years," Captain Harlow explained afterward. "After your medical discharge, you disappeared from our radar. Some of us thought you might have—" He didn't finish the sentence, but Maria understood. Many veterans didn't survive the transition to civilian life, not because of physical wounds, but because of the invisible injuries that followed them home. "I needed to disappear for a while." She admitted to figure out who Maria Torres was without a uniform and asked a lieutenant who had been a fresh-faced private when Maria saved him. "I'm still figuring it out," she said honestly. "But I know I'm someone who doesn't regret these." She touched the scars along her neck. "They remind me that I was there when it mattered." A young Marine approached with his wife and infant son. "This is Tommy," he said, introducing the baby. "His middle name is Torres." Maria looked startled, then deeply moved. "You didn't have to do that. We wanted to," the young Marine's wife replied. "So he grows up knowing that his name carries a legacy of courage." The event coordinator, a retired sergeant major, approached the microphone. "Scars are something no one asked for," he said, his voice filling the room, "but sometimes they're evidence of someone who didn't turn away when they could have." He unveiled a shadow box containing Maria's Purple Heart, which her unit had recovered from military records. "You left this behind when you disappeared," he explained. "We thought it should come home to you." Maria stared at the medal she had once tucked away. "I never felt I deserved that," she admitted quietly. "Not when others gave so much more. That's exactly why you deserve it," the sergeant major replied. "Because you never thought you did." The room erupted in approval. Not applause, but the rhythmic tapping of unit coins on tables, a military tradition recognizing exceptional service. The ceremony concluded with a presentation of a leather-bound book containing letters from everyone Maria had helped both directly and indirectly. The final page held a simple message from the entire unit. "Your scars tell a story of selflessness. Our lives tell the story of your impact." The next day, a package arrived at the diner addressed to Maria. Inside was a custom-made name tag that read, "Maria Torres Bravo, 17, with the Marine Corps emblem. A note accompanied it to wear if you choose, so no one mistakes your scars for weakness again." Maria pinned it to her apron. Immediately that afternoon, the 3 businessmen returned to the diner. They had extended their stay specifically to apologize in person. The leader approached Maria cautiously. "I came to say I'm sorry," he said, clearly uncomfortable. "I judge you harshly without knowing your story." Maria studied him, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes the most important stories aren't visible on the surface. I've learned that." He admitted the hard way. He gestured to the name tag on her apron. "You're a hero." Maria shook her head. "I'm a survivor who did what was necessary. Just like anyone else would." "Not anyone on," he countered. "You ran toward danger when others ran away." Maria refilled his coffee cup. "That's not heroism, it's just duty." As they left, each man placed a $100 bill under his plate. Maria collected them without comment, walking directly to the donation jar by the register marked Veteran Support Services. The bill slipped through the slot, joining others that had accumulated throughout the week. The jar, nearly empty for months, now overflowed with contributions from those touched by Maria's story. Eleanor watched from the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. "You could have kept that money," she said. "God knows you've earned it." Maria smiled, a full, unreserved expression that transformed her scarred face into something luminous. "I have everything I need," she replied. "But there are others still finding their way home." Type justice if you believe that true character is eventually recognized, even if it takes years. Today, Eleanor's diner operates much as it always has. The same blue-checkered curtains hang in the windows. The same special board announces meatloaf on Thursdays, and pot pie on Sundays. Maria still pours the first cup of coffee at 6 a.m. sharp, but now customers call her by a gentler name. The Block's Marine on the wall inside the diner hangs a new frame, a faded photograph from 2010 captured by a combat photographer, Maria, with bandaged hands, blood soaking through the back of her uniform, carrying a young Marine away from a burning vehicle. Her face in the image is partially obscured by smoke and grime, but her determination is unmistakable beneath the photo. A small brass plaque bears words Maria finally agreed could be shared. I never sought recognition. I only hoped those I pulled out would live long enough to live kindly toward others. The diner has become something of an unofficial memorial. Veterans travel from neighboring states just to shake Maria's hand or share their own stories. Some leave unit coins on the special shelf Eleanor installed. Others simply nod in silent acknowledgement. Every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., a group of young Marines in training occupy the corner booth. Maria serves them personally, often sitting down during her break to answer their questions or offer quiet advice about deployment. The scars don't matter. She tells them what matters is who you become despite them. One young woman, barely 20 and newly enlisted, asked Maria how she handled the fear. "I never tried to be fearless," Maria replied, surprising the recruits. "I just learned to act despite being afraid. There's a difference between being brave and being fearless. Fearless people don't understand the risks. Brave people do and move forward anyway." The viral moment that brought Maria's story to light has faded from headlines, but its impact remains. 3 local businesses have instituted hiring practices specifically targeting veterans with visible injuries. A scholarship fund established in Maria's name helps veterans pursue medical training. The town council voted unanimously to rename the street where the diner stands on her way, with a small ceremony held on Veterans Day. Maria attended reluctantly, standing in the background as the mayor spoke about community and service. When asked to say a few words, she simply thanked everyone who had ever worn a uniform. "Our scars may look different," she said, "but we all carry them, visible or not, on quiet afternoons." Maria sometimes teaches informal first aid classes in the diner's back room. She shows young Marines how to apply tourniquets, how to stabilize fractures with limited supplies, how to keep someone calm during pain. Her hands, once steady under gunfire, remain steady as she demonstrates techniques that might someday save lives. Knowledge weighs nothing. She tells them, "Carry as much as you can." Captain Harlow, now retired, stops by every month. He always sits at the counter, always orders black coffee, always leaves a unit coin beside his saucer. During his last visit, he brought a letter official, Marine Corps stationery with gold embossing. "They want to feature your story in the training material," he explained, "to teach new recruits about the true meaning of the Corps values." Maria hesitated before accepting the envelope. "My story isn't special," she said. "There are thousands like me. That's precisely why it matters," Harlow replied. "Because you represent all those who serve without fanfare, who carry their battles on their skin, who continue serving in different ways." Maria read the letter that evening in her small apartment. The formal language requested permission to include her narrative in leadership training, describing her actions as exemplifying the highest traditions of the United States Marine Corps. She signed the consent form, adding a handwritten note. "Tell them the scars are just geography maps showing where we've been, not limitations on where we can go." The next morning, Maria arrived at the diner to find something new beside her usual coffee cup: a hand-carved wooden box containing dozens of notes from local school children. Their teacher, a Marine veteran himself, had shared Maria's story during a lesson on courage. One child had written, "Thank you for being brave when it was hard. My dad has scars too, but now he doesn't feel alone." Maria placed that note in her apron pocket, where it remained throughout her shift, a reminder that healing often extends far beyond our awareness. Eleanor recently added a small sign near the register in this diner: "We respect all scars, seen and unseen." It's become something of a local motto, spreading to other businesses in town. The high school principal adopted it for the counseling office. The local VA clinic posted it in their waiting room on the anniversary of the day. The Marines lined up outside the diner. Maria takes a rare day off. She visits the veterans' cemetery an hour away, walking among the headstones of those who didn't make it home. She leaves a single flower on each grave from Bravo 17. "I remember you," she whispers to each one, "and I live every day for those who cannot." When customers now notice her scars, Maria no longer looks away. Instead, she meets their eyes directly, her gaze steady and clear, the look of someone who knows exactly who she is and what she has survived. Some stories don't need words to be told. Some heroes don't wear uniforms, and some scars become badges of honor, not despite their visibility, but because of it. Have you ever witnessed someone being judged, then vindicated through gratitude? Comment the name of someone who taught you that courage isn't about appearance, but about what you choose to do when no one else dares. Subscribe to Ironheart Stories, where scars aren't hidden, but honored like medals.